Hi, this is Gabe from FluentForever.com. In this third video, we're going to talk about Mandarin's vowels. My primary goal here is to get you familiar with the IPA symbols for those vowels and to give you a rough sense of how they fit in your mouth. Keep in mind throughout this process that the better you learn to hear these sounds, the better you'll be able to keep track of which one is which, and the better you'll be able to produce them. We're going to be talking a bit about tongue placement and lip rounding. So to give you a rough sense of that, try this. Compare e, and a in English, as in seat, set, and sat. You'll notice that your tongue starts up high, e, then goes to the middle of your mouth, and then goes down to a. So your tongue can go up and down. It can also go forward and back. Compare as in bet and as in but. Your tongue comes forward for and then pulls back for bet, but. Last, vowels are affected by the shape of your lips, which can be rounded or unrounded. These lips, for instance, appear to be saying e and oo, but that doesn't have to be the case. If you take, for instance, the tongue position of e and round your lips, you'll get u, as in French's rue.
And Mandarin's yu.
We'll be using lip rounding or the lack thereof to turn familiar English vowels into new Mandarin vowels a few times in this video. If you'd like a much more in-depth discussion about vowel formation, check out some of the videos linked below, but for the beginning, it's about all you're going to need. So let's get to some Mandarin. As before, I have Lily here to help out.
Hi.
We're going to break this discussion up into a few parts. First, we'll talk about 5 relatively familiar sounding vowels. Then we'll discuss a few familiar sounding vowel combinations, known as diphthongs. And last, we'll cover 8 vowels from Mandarin that will be relatively new for English speakers. So 5 of Mandarin's vowels are going to be relatively familiar for English speakers. The greatest challenge is going to be remembering the IPA symbols.
The first of these is E, as in Mandarin's me, or English's me.
In IPA and in Pinyin, you'll see it as a lowercase I.
Next we have A, as in Mandarin's pang, or English's pang, or father.
In IPA, it's a kind of rounded off lowercase a, and you generally find it in Mandarin before the ng sound.
Like in pang, yang, or shang. The Mandarin vowel drifts a little bit in the direction of English's a vowel. The tongue is a little bit more forward in Mandarin than in English, so you have pang in Mandarin instead of pong.
But the difference is so slight that you can basically ignore it and use your familiar a vowel, like in father.
Next comes E, as in Mandarin's yin, and English's yen.
The IPA symbol here is a rounded curly e, and the vowels are pretty much the same between English and Mandarin.
If anything, your tongue goes up just a tad in Mandarin in the direction of E. So English has yen and Mandarin yen.
But again, it's a ridiculously slight change, which is why the IPA symbols are the same in both languages and why you can keep your familiar as and yen without running into difficulties. We have 2 more familiar vowels before we get to the new stuff.
First off, as in Mandarin's yong, or English's young, or put.
This vowel, while it's basically the same in both languages, will be slightly challenging for English speakers only because it shows up in unfamiliar contexts in Mandarin.
Even in a word where all the sounds are familiar, like in kong, the combination can seem pretty foreign. The last familiar vowel is u, as in Mandarin's nu, or English's nu.
The main thing you need to be careful of here is that in many dialects of English, we tend to pronounce 2 vowels when we say a word like new. We start on before we get to u. Nu, nu.
In Mandarin, you'll start and stay on u, nu.
Before we get to the new vowels, we're going to take a brief tour through Mandarin's 4 vowel combinations, known as diphthongs, because they line up fairly well with American English, and we have enough vowel symbols to learn them already.
The first is I, as in Mandarin's sai, or English's sai or I.
You'll notice 2 new symbols here. The first one is a, which has a tongue position a little further forward in the mouth when compared with English's old a, as in father. In both Mandarin and English, you'll say I and not I. And the second part of this diphthong is I, as in it.
Then comes O, as in Mandarin's so, or American English's so.
You'll notice that in both of these words, the vowel starts on o, which is a new symbol, and ends on that familiar symbol we talked about earlier, giving you so.
Next comes A, as in Mandarin's fei.
This one is almost the same as English's fei. In English, we start at e, a vowel halfway between e and e, e. And then we go up to I, a, fei.
In Mandarin, you start in the same spot, I, but then go all the way past I up to E, so you'll hear fei in Mandarin instead of fei.
Last Mandarin has ao as in now, which sounds almost like English's now.
The difference here is that in English you start with your tongue all the way forward at a, now, now.
Mandarin starts with the tongue further back at the ah vowel we talked about earlier, now. So English has now, Mandarin now.
As I said earlier, Mandarin has 8 new vowels, which is a lot. I did, however, trick you into learning one of them already by discussing diphthongs first. We just talked about how English has ao, as in now, where that first vowel is a, with your tongue all the way forward in your mouth. If you stay on that first vowel, you don't move on to the in now, but instead you stay put. You go na, ah.
That'll give you Mandarin's ah as in na, pa, and la.
The next 5 vowels are all going to take some familiar vowel you know and do something unfamiliar with your lips. First, Mandarin's 3 new rounded vowels. We're going to take a tongue position of 3 vowels you know and round your lips on them. First, start with the tongue position of E, with your tongue all the way up and in the front, E. And going from there, you're going to round your lips without moving your tongue.
So if you take E as in knee and round your lips without moving your tongue at all, it should stay all the way in the front, as high as it can go. You get U as in nu, E, nu.
If you start with E instead, where your tongue is all the way in the front center of your mouth, and then you round your lips,
You'll get as in re, re.
You can also do this with the American vowel as in but.
Keep your tongue still in the back center of your mouth, and round your lips, o, wo. To compare them directly, English has wa as in what, Mandarin has wo.
Then come 2 unrounded vowels. This is the reverse process. We're going to take a vowel you generally pronounce with rounded lips and learn to relax those lips without dropping your tongue. The first one starts on u, as in Sue.
Take su with your tongue all the way up and in the back, u, and then completely relax your lips. U, si, zi.
The second unrounded vowel starts on o, which is the first vowel we talked about in the o diphthong, like in so.
So start on o with your tongue all the way back in your mouth and a little bit lower than u. So u, o, and then relax your lips. So, si.
And we have 2 vowels left. The first we've basically covered in the consonants video.
Remember r, the r with your tongue pointing up towards your hard palate and buzzing a bit, as in r, ru. Well, that consonant shows up in a few Mandarin words as a kind of vowel. Zhi, chi, shi, and r.
Uses the same symbol as the consonant, with just a little dot underneath to indicate it's being used as a vowel, meaning you're lingering on it for a little longer than you otherwise would. And our last vowel is the Mandarin schwa. The symbol is an upside-down lowercase e. In Mandarin, this symbol corresponds to a sound that's very similar to English's a sound, except your tongue will drift a little bit forward and up in the direction of I.
So if you start by comparing fun and fin in English, I, fun, fin, and then go somewhere in the middle of those two, fin, you'll hit the Mandarin n.
And we've covered every sound in Mandarin. To review, we began with 5 vowels that are basically the same in Mandarin and English.
E as in me, or English's me. A as in pang, or English's pong. E as in Mandarin's yin, or English's yan. As in yong, or in Carl Jung. And u as in Mandarin's nu, or English's new.
For this vowel, though, be careful to stay in one place if your dialect of English uses 2 vowels there. And then we went to Mandarin's diphthongs.
I as in sai,
which is the same as the diphthong in English's sigh.
O as in Mandarin's so, or American English's so. A as in Mandarin's fei,
which is similar to English's a as in fei, but Mandarin goes a little further with that second vowel, all the way up to e instead of stopping at I.
And last, ao as in now, which starts at our familiar a as in father and then goes to so the Mandarin diphthong is now instead of now.
And then we covered 8 new vowels,
The first was a as in pa,
which is the same vowel English uses at the start of words like now. And then we covered 5 vowels that played around with lip rounding. We had 3 rounded ones,
ü as in yu,
a rounded version of e,
as in yue.
a rounded version of e,
and o as in wo.
which is a rounded version of And then we covered 2 unrounded vowels,
As in si,
an unrounded version of u,
and as in se.
an unrounded version of o.
And last we had Mandarin's R return as a vowel as in shi, and Mandarin schwa as in fin, which has a tongue position between English's and fin.
And that's all for Mandarin sounds. Our last video will cover a few quirks of Mandarin's spelling system.